Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. On this episode, Area Sales Manager Bill Wilkinson from the Northeast Missouri area joins us with an update on his territory. Bill highlights his experience working with us as an ASM, hear about the challenges farmers face and overcome, weather patterns, how crops are looking in his area, and how farmers are utilizing our Starting Line and Starting Line Plus with Saltro and Trunemco soybean seed treatments. Find out what Merschman soybean varieties farmers are growing in Bill's area.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Merschman Seeds Cup of Joe. Today we have Ben, Lynn, and Turk, and a special guest. I'll let Lynn introduce that special guest.
Yeah, so today we have Bill Wilkinson with us today, and he's an area sales manager for us in our Missouri market. So, Bill, you want to introduce yourself and maybe give our viewers just a brief overview of what area you cover?
Yes, thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm in Northeast, East Central Missouri, Highway 36 corridor, down to the Missouri River and over to the Mississippi. I live in Montgomery County, which is somewhat centrally located to the territory.
Gotcha. So, Bill, what's going on right now in Montgomery County? What does crop planting look like? How are things looking right now?
Everything's pretty well wound up. Guys are looking at soybean emergence right now. There's still a few acres to be planted. Corn is all in and out of the ground for the most part. Everything is looking very good. The corn emergence across the board may not be quite what we totally hope for as far as a picket fence, but the stand counts are good, and guys are satisfied, especially after the last 2 years that we've had, and are continuing to roll on. Starting to think about getting the combines out now and getting them fixed, all the maintenance and any repairs left, getting it done in the winter for wheat season.
So talk about that a little bit, Bill. Talk about what challenges you guys have had the past couple of growing seasons, because they kind of mirror some of the challenges we were fighting here locally as well.
Well, the last couple of growing seasons, we've really struggled with. It's been pretty variable throughout my area, but in the immediate area and to the south of me, we've really struggled getting in the spring, and what I consider fit planting conditions. It got to the point it was getting late. People were having to push things into wet conditions we really didn't want to plant into, but the calendar is saying we had to. Last year there was a lot of acres that got that would have normally been in corn that got flipped to soybeans at the last minute because of planting date. Every year is a different year, but that's fresh on the minds of everybody still from last year. We try to plan. I try to coach people to plan for the year at hand, but we all tend to keep those experiences close to the front of our memory bank. We had an early period of good planting conditions, and people are a little worried about the temperatures, but the general attitude of farmers was that if the conditions are fit, we're going to plant. And I think, we'll know this fall, but as of right now, that looks like it was the best decision.
Yeah, I know. I've got pictures from you from the past couple of years where there were soybeans that were literally being slotted in, and you could count each soybean that was planted, but the rain just kept coming, and you ended up with a decent soybean stand off it. So we were joking around, you don't even need row cleaner or row closers in the Missouri market. So not fun.
No, that's less than ideal, but there was a lot of that. I was guilty of doing some of that myself last year, and we got blessed with another pounding rain that evening, and ended up being some 70 bushel field average soybeans. So
right, to be lucky.
I'm not recommending anybody do that, but get lucky.
That's right. So what stage are the crops in? You said you got corn up, or where are we at on the V scale for the corn?
Oh, lot of the early planted corn is V4, and like I said, there's some of it that was in work ground. We went from April to May, about 30-day period there where we only had a half inch of rain, more in some spots than others. Some of it that on a lot of work ground dried out, and guys held up on planting that just a little bit, and they've got some real nice looking stands now. So we're at any place from a V1, V2, and on some of the later playing fields to a V4, pushing V5 now on some of it. So
I'm thinking that V4, V5 time frame, we're getting ready to set your kernels around, and even getting ready to potentially start setting your length for what the yield potential with that corn is going to be. What challenges do you see from a corn side from this point moving forward?
Well, tell me what the moisture is going to be going down the road. Right now, it's going to be, if rains cooperate with us on getting in there and top dressing or side dressing to get that second nitrogen application made. And we'll see what Mother Nature deals us from there.
I would say, Bill, you're definitely in a blessed spot where you guys don't get to be what we call the 2x2 farmers, 2 weeks in the spring, 2 weeks in the fall. You guys have to work pretty hard to maintain that crop because of all the conditions. And I know the joke is that you guys are 7 days away from a flood and 7 days away from a drought. You just don't know which side of the spectrum you're on. And for the folks maybe to the north, it just kind of seems a little bit foreign that you guys could have that much variability that quick. But as you mentioned with the dry conditions, they can hold off dry and stay dry, and there's just absolutely no soil moisture at all. And especially for those, if you ever go down to the Ozarks, it's usually a good indicator around that north of Mexico there. That's just been the kind of the quintessential symbol, I guess, for your area that couldn't get it in because it's wet, and then it burns up in July and August because the rain shut off and the heat shows up.
Early planting on corn, when we get April planted corn, we tend to beat the heat on pollination and still have that moisture window to carry us through. And where it seems that if we get into some of the May planted corn, we struggle more with the heat and timing there. So I think everyone's pretty optimistic about getting back to their normal, April 20th planted corn, and a lot of it earlier than that this year. And everybody's got a pretty bright outlook on that, and rolling into the soybeans as well. A lot of optimism.
So you talk about the 7 days from drought and 7 days from flood. That kind of gets into the soybean conversation as well. Do you have certain varieties that you choose to be more defensive on and certain varieties that you're more aggressive with? And what does that look like?
Every grower has their preferences and what they're comfortable with. Personally, last year I was heavy on soybean acres, and I started out with some 3.6 Kennedys and finished out with some 4.6 Memphis, and that's the range that I'm most comfortable with in this area. 3.6s, 3.7s over the years have proved to be very effective. There's a lot of growers playing a little bit later. They want that 3.8 to a 4.2 is the sweet spots for the big sellers. So I'm really excited about the Trumans this year. I was fortunate enough to have 40 units of those last year to see on my own farm, and was very pleased with how fast they filled the rows, how how easy they were to cut. The Austins continue to be just a all around tough bean that just seems to handle the stresses and conditions well. And then the Norfolks performed very well last year as well.
So you're both splitting risk two different directions there. You're spreading your maturity to figure out, when one of those products is going to catch rain, and you're also spreading with different style of products, like Austin's being on maybe some of your tougher ground, and potentially Norfolk's on the racier style ground, if I understood that correctly, right?
Correct. Yeah, actually, I had a 60-acre field last year that had some terraces on it that was a little bit tougher, and it worked out just right. We had Austins in the planter there. We planted that ground Austins. We got into some of the lower, better lying ground, and then just by trying to coordinate a little bit of luck, it worked out perfect. That's where we rolled right into the Norfolks and the better lying ground, all in the same field, same farm, and it matched the variability.
That's something we're definitely see growers more as we've progressed into this, maybe soybean as not just a companion crop to, or a complementary crop to corn, as we're taking some evolutions into some between variable rate populations, but also multi-variety in fields, and trying to get the very last nitty-gritty, I guess, out of every acre that we produce. So it's good to hear that the guys down in Missouri are definitely leading the charge on that one.
Yeah, it's that's what we're trying to do. Our products are flexible in the ability we can place them, and they seem to perform well everywhere. But there's a lot of guys that are really starting to look at managing and placing soybeans more like corn, and that's they're seeing the benefits of doing that.
Let's, while we're talking about soybeans, let's talk about seed treatment a little bit. I kind of like getting all of our sales managers' take. What percentage of your sales are untreated? What percentage of your sales are starting line treated? And what percentage of your sales are the starting line plus that has the Saltro Trunemco? And do you have any comments on the additions and the changes we made to the seed treatment for this year, and how do the beans look because of it, maybe?
Well, the emergence this year, everybody looks good and healthy, despite some early insect pressure that we had, especially in some of the cover crop fields. I think, as we move south in my area, you get south of 70, south of the river, those guys see a lot more disease pressure. So we see a lot more Saltro treated beans, starting line plus, going in down there. There's as we move north, it seems like guys go to the field first with the starting line plus treated beans. I think that we've proven that even though we may not have visual presence of sudden death in fields, that it is out there, and the cyst nematodes are the highway for it to enter. So my most exciting new part of the starting line plus is having the Trunemco in there for soybean cyst nematodes, because they are a problem throughout my growing area, and people are starting to realize it, and we have a lot of henbit and other pests out there that tend to be host for those that I think a lot of times get forgotten. So they tend to want to hang on and an overwinter, even into corn ground. out there trying to beat us one way or the other. So I think we've got a leg up on them now.
Right. Like transitioning just a little bit towards the wheat side of things. I know we have lots of sprayers running right now, trying to get the head timing done on wheat. What's the wheat look like in your area? We got a good crop rolling, and like where are we at staging, and what are guys doing with their wheat?
The fungicide foliar passes were wrapped up last week. That's done and in the books, and everybody's eyeballing it and getting the combines ready, and it's hoping that we have moisture when we need it and don't have it when it's time to cut it. And we'll see where that leads us to. But I'm optimistic about this year's wheat crop. It's but I don't want to jinx anybody out there that's in the same camp that I'm in with the potential that it's got.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if we can get through this pollination now without a lot of rain, that's going to ward off the scab potential issues, because head scab comes in during that pollination time when you have wet, high humidity, and so far we've been dry and cool, which that should lend to a big wheat crop. So we're not putting a lot into the straw. We're going to put it into the head with the nitrogen, and then also with the fungicide now, and we seem to be pretty low on disease right now. So we got like you say, we don't want to jinx it, but things are looking positive.
Right. I did want to add here a little bit of a note, I guess, from our seed treatment provider, and this would be something good to keep on your radar, Bill, that some of the competition out there that use a less aggressive seed treatment than what our starting line and our starting line plus have in it. One of our experts was kind of giving us a heads up. This is the time of year for Rhizoc, with the cooler, wetter conditions that we had turning into warmer, drier conditions. That Rhizoctonia is something we really need to be keeping an eye out for. And there are products out there where people use a product like Maxim or Fludioxanol for their Rhizoc protection. It is definitely not as beefy of a product as what our ipecacuanol is, or our Rancona that we run with. So our soybeans should be protected really, really well against Rhizoc, but that was the disease that she kind of wanted us to keep an eye out for in the competition. And this would be something where you would be able to see to the line differences if you're using a Maxim product versus on your seed treatment for a fungicide in comparison to our ipecacuanol.
Yeah, Rhizoctonia is called the ghost disease. In other words, or runt pig, if you want to call it. You get the girdling right there at the soil line, and basically stunts the plant or kills it, depending upon how bad it is, but will hold the development back a little bit. So it's kind of like the runt pig. It still eats, but doesn't grow quite as fast, and it's kind of the same way. We have not seen Rhizoctonia for quite a while because we've had all these wet springs, and when you have a dry, cool spring like Ben you just described, we have that potential. So it's like a lot of things in farming. You get along fine for years and years, and all of a sudden, boom, you have something that hits you real hard. So when it gets hot and dry here, that's when we want to watch for that girdling right at the soil line, and look for isolated dead plants, one here or there, and then also just in general that your soybeans are not growing as fast as they should. So, and back in the day, Turkey, you remember when you had Rhizoctonia, what did they tell you to do? Cultivate. Push some soil up around and try to get some new roots above that girdling area. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, but back in the day, that's how, if you had Rhizoctonia before we had these great fungicides that we use on our seed treatment now, that was one of the methods to get you through it. So something to keep an eye on. We haven't seen it yet, but we just think that conditions could be favorable for it. So that's a good point to bring up, Ben, no question about it.
Bill, I guess one of the last things that we hit on soybeans and wheat, and what is the outlook in corn? Obviously, I know that you have a big test plot out on your farm where we got some checks against some very standard competition out there with the Merschman corn. What's the Merschman corn look like? Do you have any notes on the Merschman corn and some of the advantages you can see with it for customers coming down the line?
You know, out of the gate right now, it looks good. Yeah, I was scrutinizing it, walking by it almost every morning, and it emerged very well, and very evenly across the field, regardless of variety. I'm excited about the power core traits and the options that gives us. I got a call last week from a gentleman that had some glyphosate resistant Johnson grass, and the possibilities that he had with herbicides to use there, and a place where they had some corn on corn that got flooded, and they didn't have the power core trait, so I was going to give them an option to clean up some of that using different chemistry, and just having some of the newest frontline genetics. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've got more strips going on and more notes on where the strips are, more stakes driven than I can possibly count on my place. We did plots and side by side checks, split the planter on one occasion, just trying to run everything through the ringer, and I think it's going to be a exciting proving ground.
Hey, Bill, I got one comment about that. The diversity that we're going to have in our corn lineup with the sign, which is going to be the short style, high population, high management type hybrids, which one of our competitors out there is touting that they've invented this technology, but obviously that's not totally accurate. But we have that lineup, and then of course the Merschman corn lineup. We're putting Turpidity as one of our seed treatments on there, as well as other great products, that Turpidity really helps you get that uniform emergence because of the way the components work, and it works actually better on corn than it does on soybeans. So we're putting together and stacking the deck to get that uniform stand, and then get that uniform pollination, uniform ear size, and then potentially yield. And like you say, if you get a weed or two, you got like 4 different options, to control weeds post, which is unprecedented. So, I'm like you, Bill. I'm looking forward to seeing some of that Merschman corn out there, and then finding those farmers that can make the sign corn work with the high management. And there's going to be a lot of talk about short corn this year. So we're right on the front edge of that, and if not leading the pack. So good year for Merschman corn. Excited about our new hyper early wheat coming in 24. And then, of course, Ben's lineup of soybeans is just going to keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back and just hit on what chemistry he's talking about for that glyphosate-resistant Johnson grass. So Power Core corn has the ability to spray Assure on that corn and take out grasses. So it's a grass killer, and it's also a volunteer corn killer in soybeans. And that Assure 2 class of chemistry, as they would call it, a FOP, class of chemistry, can be sprayed. The corn will survive it, not ding the yield any, and you'd be able to clean up that Johnson grass. So there's another advantage there.
Yeah, the Liberty Roundup, and then 2,4-D, up to 36 inches?
I'd have to look at the label.
Yeah, but it's pretty tall corn. So, it's a farmer's dream, right, Bill?
Yeah, well, everyone loves options, and that opens up the door. I hope we don't have a situation where we have to spray corn that tall, but different years and different situations call for different measures. So it's good to have every tool you can have in the toolbox, and that definitely gives us options.
Well, thanks, Bill, for the update in your territory. I know you're a CCA, so you stay on top of all these things. So, and a real asset to any farmer that needs your advice and recommendations. Turk, the markets have been kind of sick here.
Yep, they have. It's basically the chart followers are watching the charts, and they broke some resistance levels, and the trend is your friend, and as they like to say, and chartists will say, and so.
As far as predicting
where it's going to go, but I think the fundamentals are going to eventually take over and prove. I mean, this crop is not in the bin yet. We have a long way to go. We're talking about all the hot weather that's going to start coming in here in the next 10 days to 2 weeks, and on the dry side. So this market can turn around in a hurry, and I believe will turn around in a hurry. So if you're in the mood to buy some grain for your livestock, this would be a good time.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Right now, everything is rosy. In other words, we got an early start, got planting in, things went in well. So now they're projecting the big crop, and as we know, Mother Nature just pecks away at that crop all year. So we'll have to see what happens after. And it's always been said, it's not the date that you plant, it's the weather after you plant that determines the crop. So the weather after your crop. So the weather's going to be the contributing factor. And like you said, the fundamentals are still in favor of the prices to move up.
Yep, we're underpriced for the supply that we have.
Sounds good. Anyhow, two corny jokes this week. Two corny jokes this week. One of them is you guys, are in the youngster business, so I'm going to ask you this now. Okay, how do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? How do you put a baby astronaut to sleep? You rock it. Okay. Okay. I knew you'd like that one. Now, the other one, we got graduations going on, right? This weekend they kind of start and go into next weekend, so everybody's in graduation mode, so I thought I'd tell a graduation joke. What kind of school do you graduate from if you're a giant? What kind of school do you graduate from if you're a giant? High school, obviously. Well, I even got a little laugh out of Ben, so that means that was maybe close to acceptable. Anyhow, thanks for watching this week. Thanks, Bill, for joining in and telling us about the challenges of farming in Missouri, because we know that they're tough. And we hope that your family is safe and healthy, and we'll see you next week.